When I say self-belief is overrated, how does that make you feel? Slightly confused? Yeah? Of course, it is confusing. We've always been told that self-belief is the key to success. It's practically a self-development slogan. You can find it on motivational posters everywhere. Believe in yourself. But here is what I have learned, personally and painfully. Self-belief is important? Absolutely yes. And if you can develop it over time, even better. But think about it, it doesn't always show up when we need it most. Like if you are chasing something truly transformational, something you've never done before, but you have no maybe past wins to lean on, knowledge, experience, or resources, how can I tell you, believe in yourself and be confident? It doesn't make sense. And affirmations or not, self-doubt will creep in, and you will hear those voices, you call them inner critics or saboteurs, saying things like, and sometimes mocking, huh? Excuse me, what did you say you want to do again? Oh, no. Too big, too risky. Can you find something smaller so if you fail, people don't laugh at you? Oh, you're not ready, let's talk about it later. Sound familiar? I think we've all been there at some point. But here is the twist. What if self-doubt is not the enemy we think it is? What if we can be friends with those saboteurs? And what if we can still achieve great things in life, even with no self-belief? But before I go any further, I want to make one thing clear. I'm not here to just challenge convention. I'm standing on science. There is a long-term study by a psychologist called Dr. Ulrich Traudwein that I found very interesting because it proves that raising self-esteem does not improve performance. It's the other way around. Good performance raises self-esteem. So what does that mean? It means that belief doesn't create success. Evidence does. And there is more. Acceptance Commitment Therapy, or ACT, founded by Dr. Stephen Hayes, backed by 1,300 randomized control trials, proves something similar. We don't need self-confidence. We don't need to silence fear in order to act and achieve great things. Also, what do we need? We need to identify a goal that truly matters to us first. And then, guided by our own core values, we take what they call committed actions. Then, step by shaky step, self-belief will form, but not as a prerequisite or a starting point, as a reward for showing up and doing the work. So no, we don't need self-belief to begin. We just need to begin. So why am I standing here talking about this with such conviction? Here is why. Because I have been there. I went through the struggle. This is not a theory for me. I know this path works. So please allow me to tell you a little bit about me. I grew up in Egypt in a working class home. My parents were very young when they got married, and we lived in a tiny place with my grandmother. Now, my grandma was a very simple but very lovely, wise lady. She's the one who taught me the value of education. She even made me promise to create a better future for myself and to never stop learning. When I was 11, unfortunately, my parents divorced, and all of a sudden, I found myself responsible for everything. I moved in with my dad, and being the eldest daughter, I was expected to take care of my father, my siblings, household, cooking, cleaning, all of it. And as you can imagine, for a kid that age, that was very difficult. By 14, I started working part-time to help pay for school. And at 16, I decided to teach myself English. Again, hoping for better opportunities in life. After graduating college, I moved to Dubai on my own. Big risk, but just felt right. And then at 27, turning point, everything changed. I discovered the personal development and the power of coaching. And I decided to work on myself. So I went back to school, I went back to study, I earned a post-grad diploma followed by a master's degree. I became a coach, a mentor, TV personality. I received a few prestigious awards in the field of human development, and I founded my own company. Today, I run a multi-million-dollar international business and leadership development and corporate training. Sound neat and tidy, right? sound like this is someone who confidently knew what she was doing and was clear about every step of the way. I assure you not. This is far from the truth. I have felt fear way more often than I have felt brave throughout this journey. So how did a young kid, once stacking shelves to pay for school, recently become a Harvard graduate and stand here today giving this TED talk? Looking back, 5 key steps got me here without self-belief. I call them the blueprint, and I'd love to share them with you right now. Step number 1 is to define your why with brutal honesty. And the key here is brutal honesty. So let's together look at that dream. You know, the one you've been carrying quietly for a while, haven't yet dared to begin, and ask yourself, why does it really, truly, truly matters to me? When I was younger, I wanted to be a doctor. This was the ultimate dream. I was heartbroken when I didn't get into med school. I didn't have the money or the resources or the time, so I couldn't. But years later, when I had the means, the dream came back. And I started looking at programs available, and I almost applied for one. Luckily, I paused before applying, and I asked myself with brutal honesty, why that dream? Why do I want to be a doctor? And the answer changed everything, everything. I realized that for me, medicine was more about status than passion. Because you see, in my country, being a doctor was, and probably still is, a big deal. So as hard as it was, I stepped away from the dream. But that saved me years from chasing the wrong thing. And yeah, okay, it took me a while to get over it. But I believe that nothing stings more than climbing a ladder and then later realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. So ask yourself again, why? Once you're clear about your why, here is the next step. Do not settle. Dream bigger than you think you're allowed. Aim as high as you can. Do you know why? Because you're going to work so hard anyway, so hard. So why not feel so proud when you've hit a goal once felt impossible? When I decided to pursue a master's degree, I went for the most challenging program in my field. And not only that, I decided I will pass with distinction. So, well, I had my why. Okay. I went to college during the first semester to talk to one of the deans and ask for help. And I remember saying, Professor, this is my goal, any word of advice? And I remember she looked at me with kindness and cleared out on her face. And she said, Hanan, the program is already long and tough as it is. My advice would be to forget about passing with distinction and just focus on passing. Because even English native speakers do not pass easily with distinction. And that hurt. It really, really hurt. It was very important to me, but I knew she meant well, and for days I was thinking about her words and the wisdom behind them, and I almost talked myself out of the goal. But I couldn't. I couldn't because I knew deep down that the pain of regret, if I never tried, will hurt way more than the fear of failing. So I decided to go in, give it everything I had, and I did. 3 years later, I was one of only 2 students to pass with distinction. Back to doubt. Every time I aimed higher than felt safe, guess what doubt did? It came running, telling me, what are you doing? This is too big, it's too scary. What if you fail? People will laugh at you. And every time I would just remind myself that it's trying to protect me, and I would kindly thank it for the warning. And then remind myself that the goal is not certainty. I was not certain that I was going to pass with distinction. The goal was to keep moving in the right direction, step by shaky step. But let's also agree that aiming real high feels powerful, it feels good. But aiming high without proper planning and proper preparation is not brave. That's naive. And I'm not talking here about to-do list and logistics. You've got that covered. I am talking about humility. To be humble enough to realize where you're clueless and be brave enough to ask for help and learn from scratch and put in the work and the effort. So Another story. In my early 30s, I dreamt of having my own TV show. I wanted to inspire young people to transform their lives. Sounds great, right? Except I had zero media experience. I had no idea how this world worked. And here we go again, comes doubt, asking me, what is wrong with a YouTube channel? Why does it have to be a TV show? This is so hard. But I remembered my grandma's words, never stop learning. And I decided, you know what? I may not know now, but I can learn. And for 6 months, I researched how TV networks operate, how to pitch an idea. And my ego hated it, absolutely hated being a beginner again. I was that famous, popular coach and mentor, and all of a sudden I'm learning again. But that's the point here, is to be humble enough and willing to accept to be bad at something until you're really, really good at it. Because if you're not willing to put in the effort and plan and prepare, honestly, you're not yet ready for that dream. So, yes, the TV show became a reality and it was success. But back to your dream. Ask yourself, what skills or knowledge am I currently missing? And who are the true experts I could call upon? Who could help me learn? And more importantly, can you manage your ego? But if you can, and you've done the work, then the fun begins. Step number 4, execution. This is no longer about planning or ideas. This is now about full commitment and making friends with doubt, because it is going to visit you regularly from now on. When I was setting up my business, I kind of followed this blueprint. Well, not consciously, but I did. I was very clear about my why. I aimed high and had a vision. I prepared well. So now you'd expect execution to be smooth, right? Absolutely not. I had just quit a well-paying, secured corporate full-time job in the middle of the financial crisis to start my own business with only one contract to rely on. So guess what doubt did? It came back, but this time it was begging. Please, please stop the madness. This is too hard. Can you cut your losses? Go beg for your old job back. And as usual, I would just remind myself that doubt is a sign. It's a sign that I am stretching, that I'm growing, that I'm going beyond my comfort zone. But when things got really hard, and they did often, I'd practice what I call self-soothing. I would sit quietly and whisper to myself like a loving parent while touching my arm, just like that, okay? Or you just hug yourself, up to you, and just whisper saying, it's okay. It's okay. This is hard, I know. You're tired, but you're brave. One step at a time. It's okay. Later on, I learned that this kind of touch activates delta waves, signals that calms your nervous system down, and it helped. It really helped. And the mix between self-talk and self-soothing carried me through execution. It was very difficult. But the result is the business grew, and it is still growing internationally, 15 years in so far. So back to commitment, full commitment when you execute. And when doubt visits, it's okay, smile. By now, you're good friends. And when you get there, finally achieved your goal, feeling proud and relieved, it's time to celebrate, right? Most people think of celebrations as parties, and there is nothing wrong with that. I love parties. But my favorite way to mark success is in the quiet. Every time I hit a new milestone, I would run to my room, lock the door, stand in front of the mirror, and look into my own eyes, and I just pause. I pause, and I let the reality of what I've just done sink in. I remember the days I almost gave up. I remember the fear, the tears, the labor no one else saw behind the brave face, and I let my emotions flow. Sometimes I cry. Most times I actually cry, but out of joy, gratitude, pride, and sometimes out of just sheer exhaustion. And then I hear a small voice inside me that says, you did it. You did it. Not fearlessly, not perfectly, but you did it. And in that moment, true self-belief is born. Not based on wishful thinking, based on proof. Now I have proof that I am capable. Now I have proof that I can do hard things. No external validation and no applause needed, just me. And those doubting voices, they faded over time because they couldn't argue with the truth reflected back at me in that mirror. So back to the young girl stacking shelves to pay for school. She had nothing. She had no resources, no knowledge, nobody to help her out, and definitely no self-belief. She got here by following this blueprint. She was very clear about her why. Every time she set a goal, she aimed really high with a vision. She prepared well with humility. She committed fully and made peace with doubt. And step number 5 is this. She celebrated quietly every time she hit a new milestone. And self-belief, it showed up late, but solid. Not because she hoped for it, because she earned it. Before I step off the stage, I invite you all to take a minute and think of that big dream you have. You know, the one you've been keeping on the shelves, gathering dust, and look at it. Like really, really, really look at it. And think of the possibilities. What could happen if you actually apply those 5 steps to your dream? Maybe, just maybe, the next time you stand in front of your mirror, exhausted but victorious, you don't just see success. You see solid, well-earned self-belief. So go on, take the leap. Do it scared, do it uncertain, but do it anyway, and belief will follow. Thank you.